You ever think about it? What you're gonna do? After?
After what?
After the Navy. When your contract's up. You ever actually think about it?
I think about a cheeseburger I don't have to stand in a line for.
I'm serious, man.
I don't know. Go home. Sleep in a bed that doesn't move under me. You got a new contact?
What?
270, below the layer. You're not hearing that?
Probably biologics. Whale, maybe? Snapping shrimp?
That's not shrimp.
Bottom bounce, then.
There's no bottom up here to bounce off of. We're over the trench. It's almost 11,000 meters under our keel.
So what's making a metal sound 11,000 meters down?
There. There it is again.
That's got a rhythm to it. Shrimp don't keep time.
Go get the chief.
It's 3 a.m.
Go get the chief.
That's an S.
It's nothing. It's
3 taps. That's an S. Then an O. Then an S. Somebody's down there.
The man who first heard it sent his account to me a little over a year ago. He spent 11 years as a sonar technician aboard a guided missile destroyer in the Pacific, and he asked me to keep the name of his ship out of this, which I have done. He is not a man who tells ghost stories. He spent more than a decade of his life listening to the ocean for a living, and he says that is exactly the reason what he heard that night has never once let go of him. Because he knew what the ocean was supposed to sound like, and this was not it. He writes, I did 11 years as a sonar tech, all of it surface, most of it on the same destroyer. I'm telling you that up front so you understand I'm not some kid who got spooked by a whale on his first underway. I have heard the ocean make every sound it knows how to make. Whales, dolphins, snapping shrimp, which sound like bacon frying if you've never heard it, and which fill the whole sea with noise. Earthquakes, ice, our own screws, some other nation's screws, the long, low groan a thermocline makes when the water above it and the water below it can't agree on a temperature. None of it scares you after a while. It's just the building you work in. It's just the walls talking. The night this happened, we were alone. Single ship, no escort, transiting deep water in the western Pacific, out where the chart just goes blue and the numbers underneath your keel get into the tens of thousands of meters and stop meaning anything. Sea state was almost nothing. Glass. The kind of night where the watch goes slow and you start thinking about home to stay awake. I had a younger guy on console with me. Good kid. He's the one who flagged it first. Faint contact, bearing 270 down below the layer. I told him it was probably biologics because that's what it almost always is, and because that's what you say. But I put the cans on and I listened, and it wasn't biologics. It had a rhythm. Nothing in the sea keeps time. That's the thing people don't get. Living things are sloppy. Earthquakes roll. Ice cracks when it cracks. But this had a beat to it, like a man with a hammer who knew exactly how long to wait between swings. Metal on metal. And it was coming from underneath us, from water so deep that there was nothing solid down there to make a sound against. No bottom to bounce off. No wreck shallow enough to matter. Just cold and black all the way down. I got the chief. He didn't roll his eyes, which told me something, because that chief rolled his eyes at everything. He put the cans on and he listened for a long time, and he didn't say anything at all, and then he said, "Write it down." So we wrote it down. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. I'd had Morse beaten into me at sonar school years before and mostly forgotten it, but you don't forget that one. Nobody does. SOS. The oldest call there is. And it wasn't a recording, it wasn't a buoy, it wasn't some merchant's machinery beating itself to death, because after the SOS, it kept going. It started spelling. D-E. The chief said that one out loud before I could. D-E. It's old radio. It means from. It means this is. As in, to whoever's listening, this is who I am. And then it told us who it was. SABLEFISH. A boat's name. An American boat's name. A fish name. The kind they hung on the fleet submarines in the war. And then a hull number behind it. Slow and deliberate. Every letter a knock coming up through 11,000 meters of water, like somebody was standing right outside the skin of our ship. We sent a guy to look it up. I want to be careful here because this is the part that I still can't make sit right. He came back and he said the records don't agree. He said depending on which list you read, the sablefish with that number was either scrapped, cut up for scrap in a yard decades ago, gone, razor blades, or she was lost in the war with everyone aboard. Except that the place she was supposed to have been lost was thousands of miles away, in the wrong ocean entirely, nowhere near where we were floating that night. One list said one thing, another list said the other. A third didn't have her at all. So whatever was knocking on the bottom of the sea under us was a boat that, depending on who you asked, had either already been turned into scrap metal in 1971 or had died on the far side of the planet. Either way, she could not be where she was, and she kept knocking. After the name, there was a pause, long enough that the kid said, "That's it, it's done." And then it started again. But it wasn't the SOS anymore. It was spelling something new, and it took us a second to break it, because it was short groups now, with little gaps between them, like a list. The chief had the pencil. He was writing the letters as they came, and I was reading over his shoulder. And at first it was just nonsense, just letters. And then a group resolved, and it was a rate and a last name. STG2 Ramos. And the chief just stopped writing. He stopped because Ramos was on the bridge. Right then, 40 feet over our heads, standing the lee helm, very much alive, a guy I'd had chow with 8 hours before. And the thing in the water was spelling his name. Then a gap, and the next one. IT1 Doyle. Doyle had the comms watch, 2 compartments forward, awake, on duty, right now. Then BM3 Vance. Vance had the bridge wing. Then a longer group. It spelled out LTJG. And then KELLER. And Keller was our officer of the deck, and somebody had already gone up to get him without my noticing, because all of a sudden, Keller was standing in the door of the sonar shack in the dark, with his face the color of the deck, and the thing in the water was knocking out his name letter by letter while he stood there and listened to it. I want you to understand what we were hearing. It was the watch. Not random names off some old crew roster. Not the dead. The names of the men who were awake on our ship at 3 o'clock that morning. The standing watch. Coming up in order, station by station. The same order you'd read them off a watch bill. The same order you'd account for them if you were taking a count. Whatever was 11,000 meters down in the dark wasn't guessing. It wasn't fishing. It had us. It had the list. And then it got to a rate I knew better than any other in the world. It got to mine. I'm not going to print my own name here. You'll forgive me that. But I will tell you that I heard it spelled out. One slow knock at a time, in iron, coming up out of more cold black water than I can hold in my head, by something that should not have been able to know I existed. And the second it finished my name, it stopped. The whole thing stopped. The bearing started to draw down and the signal got thin, and the chief said it's descending, it's going down, and we tracked it as far as we could, which wasn't far. And then there was nothing. Just the layer groaning. Just the shrimp. Just the ocean, going back to being the building I worked in, like none of it had happened. Nobody in that shack said one word for a long time. I've got the page the chief wrote on. They didn't get all of it. I'll come back to that. But I've got the page, and it's our watch bill, in his handwriting, in the order the knocking gave it to us. And the last name on it is mine. I sat with that account for a long while before I did anything with it. A man hearing his name in the deep, in the small hours, after 11 years of training his ear to find meaning in noise. There are easy explanations for that, and the man who wrote it offered me most of them himself before I could. Fatigue, suggestion, a mind that listens to static for a living, finding a shape in it. Except he was not the only one who heard it. I asked him, in the way you have to ask these things carefully, whether anyone else aboard could speak to that night. He gave me one name, a man who had stood the comms watch on the same ship, one of the names the knocking called, and who, he warned me, would be harder to convince to talk because of what happened to the recordings afterward. It took some months, but that man wrote to me as well, and his account is the one I cannot get out of my head, because he is the one who figured out what we had actually been listening to. He writes, I was in radio that night. They'll have told you my name came up. It did. I heard them pass it down the chain, and I heard my own name go by. And I'm not going to pretend I'm over it, because I'm not. But I want to tell you the part the sonar guys couldn't, because it's my side of the house. And it's the part that means there is no version of this that makes sense. When word got to me what they had on the contact, the first thing I did, the trained thing, the thing you do, was go up and down the spectrum looking for a transmitter. A distress call has to come from a transmitter. I checked the old international distress frequencies, the ones nobody's keyed in earnest in decades. I checked everything. There was nothing. Not a carrier, not a whisper, not a hint of a signal on any radio frequency anywhere. Because it wasn't radio. It was sound. It came up through the water, and here is what that means, and you have to sit with it. A submerged submarine cannot transmit a radio signal. Salt water eats it. That's physics. That's why subs have to come shallow to talk. So nothing down there could have called us by radio, even if it wanted to. Fine. But it didn't use radio. It made a noise. It physically made a sound by striking something hard against the inside of a steel hull over and over in code, loud enough and clean enough to carry up through 11,000 meters of ocean and be read by our sonar like a telegraph. A fleet boat from that war had no equipment that could do that. No underwater telephone. None of it had been invented yet. There's exactly one way a submarine makes a deliberate, patient, coded knocking sound on its own hull. Somebody inside it does it by hand. That's the real thing, the thing under the thing. When the surface ships used to hunt those boats, and a boat got hurt and went to the bottom and couldn't come up, the men trapped inside would tap on the hull. Morse, by hand, with a wrench, with anything. And the ships up top with their hydrophones would hear it. They'd hear the tapping go on for hours. And then they'd hear it slow down. And then they'd hear it stop. That's what we heard, 80 years too late, coming up out of a boat that the records say was already scrap. Now, the other thing, the names. After it was over, I pulled the watch bill, the official one, who had which station that night, in writing, time-stamped, and I laid it next to what the sonar chief had copied down, and they matched. Not roughly, exactly. The knocking had given our names in the precise order they appeared on the watch, station by station, top of the bill to bottom. Whatever was down there hadn't been calling out at random and getting lucky. It had read our watch bill. It had us mustered, in order, the same as you'd account for a crew at quarters. And that's what finally turned my stomach about the whole thing, more than hearing my own name. Because an SOS is a cry for help. You send an SOS when you need somebody to come and save you. But you don't follow an SOS by calmly reading off a crew list, in order, name by name, rate by rate. That's not a cry for help. That's a muster. That's what you do when you're counting your people, before you get underway. I didn't say that to anybody for a long time, but it's what I think, and I've never been able to think anything else. As for what happened after, inside of about 2 days, we had people aboard who hadn't been aboard before. Nobody introduced them. They took the sonar recorder. They took the logs for that watch. They sat each of us down separately, and they were polite, and they told us that what we had picked up was an acoustic anomaly, a biologic event, consistent with known phenomena in deep water, and that there was nothing further to discuss, and it would be best for everybody if it stayed that way. A couple of the guys from that watch got moved to other commands not long after. I don't know if that meant anything. Probably it didn't. They got most of it. They did not get the page the chief wrote on, because he'd already folded it into his coverall pocket before any of them came aboard, and as far as I know, he has it to this day. I think about the sablefish more than I'd like to. I think about her sitting down there in the cold and the dark, on a patrol nobody ever ended, with a crew that's been bone and rust for 80 years. And I think about the one thing that's true of every boat that ever was, the thing they drill into you from your first day. A ship doesn't go to sea without a crew. You can't get underway short-handed. You have to have your people, and you have to count them, every one, before you take her out. She passed under us that night, and she took her count. I just can't stop wondering whether she got it.